Okay, huge news coming out this afternoon about, once again, Vince McMahon and reportedly paying hush money payments in the millions to four women previously associated with WWE. We're going to break down all of the allegations and this latest development in this ongoing WWE news story. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Friday. And the allegations and the scrutiny and just the damning verdict on former, at the moment, WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon continue, because the Wall Street Journal has once again dropped a bombshell report, a bombshell article, really shedding more light and showing more details about these hush money payments that Vince McMahon has been doing, not for the past year, not for the past 3 years, not a recent payment that was done in January of this year, over the course of the last 16 years. That's as far back as they got, and who knows how bad this truly gets. Vince McMahon reportedly agreed to pay out more hush money over sexual misconduct allegations. Now, this comes once again, as I mentioned, from the Wall Street Journal. They have said that McMahon, quote, agreed to pay more than $12 million over the past 16 years to suppress allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. The payouts reportedly went to four women who were previously associated with WWE. The woman reportedly, quote, signed agreements that prohibit them from discussing potential legal claims against or their relationships as well. Now, the unreported settlements reportedly include, now again, I'm quite almost hesitant to go into some of the details. I'm just going to try to do my best to quote the Wall Street Journal, because frankly, my concern is with this Wall Street Journal is that they've given details that make it very easy to figure out who some of these people could be. I haven't myself done that, and I don't care to do it, and I'm not going to do it. But certainly some details, when you get into certain aspects of it, it won't take too long to figure out who these people could possibly be. Now, the unreported settlements reportedly include, quote, a $7.5 million pact with a former wrestler, a former WWE superstar, who alleged that Mr. McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex and demoted her, and ultimately declined to renew her contract in 2005 after she resisted further sexual encounters. Now, the wrestler in question here and her attorney reportedly approached Mr. McMahon in 2018 and negotiated the payment in return for her silence. It continues. Another unreported deal. Bear in mind, these are separate from the hush money payments that the WWE Board of Directors are actively investigating, which started off all of this, and that payment was to one person who Vince McMahon made a payment to in January of 2022 this year. This other unreported deal reportedly states, quote, a WWE contractor presented the company with an unsolicited nude photos of Mr. McMahon she reported receiving from him, and alleged that he had sexually harassed her on the job, according to people familiar with the woman's 2008 non-disclosure agreement. Mr. McMahon agreed to pay her roughly $1 million to silence her. Finally, it's also reported that a 2006 agreement, a former manager who had worked 10 years for Mr. McMahon before he allegedly initiated a sexual relationship with her, was paid $1 million to keep quiet about it, end quote. The report goes on to state, quote, Mr. McMahon's affairs at the company were common knowledge, according to former WWE employees, end quote. Now, it's undetermined by the Wall Street Journal whether this board probe that's ongoing by the independent board of directors includes the non-disclosure agreements involving the contractor and the former manager and the former wrestler, or even how far back their investigation goes. We don't know if WWE's board of directors are just investigating the more recent future, because, of course, again, this all started off by a payment that started in January of this year. So we don't know how far back this goes, but there certainly seems to be a pattern of behavior here that's happened over the course of the last couple of decades in WWE. And again, Vince McMahon's been at the helm when it comes to WWE since the early 80s. So who knows how many payments or how many allegations there truly are. Now, a spokesperson for the board's independent directors declined to comment when reached out by the Wall Street Journal. Neither Mr. Laurinaitis nor an attorney for Mr. McMahon responded to requests for comment by the Wall Street Journal as well. Now, again, this all started on June 15 when the Wall Street Journal reported that the WWE board was investigating a secret $3 million settlement that Vince McMahon reportedly agreed to pay to a departing employee with whom he allegedly had an affair with, according to documents and people familiar with the board inquiry. Now, board members reportedly learned of the $3 million agreement in a series of anonymous emails they received from someone who said the former WWE paralegal was a friend of theirs. The investigation reportedly began in April when other, older non-disclosure agreements involving claims by former female WWE employees of misconduct by Mr. McMahon and John Laurinaitis, who of course was the head of talent relations at the time. Additionally, the board is reportedly looking at a $1.5 million non-disclosure agreement reached in 2012 with an employee involving misconduct claims against John Laurinaitis. A company spokesperson said the company is cooperating with the board inquiry. Laurinaitis, of course, has been placed on administrative leave, with Bruce Pritchard taking over as the interim head of talent relations. Just a couple of days after all of this happened, Vince McMahon voluntarily stepped back as WWE CEO, with Stephanie McMahon being named as the interim CEO and chairwoman. But also, let's not forget here, WWE milked this for all it's worth by having Vince McMahon go on television, on Raw, on SmackDown, multiple times to capitalize on all of the publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity or negative publicity, right? There is now. And if Vince McMahon shows up on SmackDown tonight and is all, I'm not going to say anything, welcome to SmackDown. No. Some of this behavior is appalling. And again, I know some people are going to say, well, technically some of it wasn't against the law and it wasn't illegal. It doesn't. He's the chairman of the company. He owns the company. This is clearly an abuse of power by a very powerful man. And the arrogance of this man to think, oh, I'm a millionaire, I can just pay people off and they'll shut up eventually. If you do it to so many people, of course people are going to come calling. You know, money can't buy everything. And whilst in certain cases it's bought silence, eventually it will come back around. And that's what's happening with Vince McMahon now. I don't care if he built this company. I don't care if he's responsible for what WWE is today. He shouldn't be around at all. And I found it laughable. I honestly found it laughable when the previous claims that I'm stepping back as the chairman, I'm stepping back as the CEO, or this is ongoing because I'm fully cooperating. But he's in charge of creative. He's still in charge of what is presented on television. That's still basically being in charge of WWE, because that's the thing that people watch every single week. That's the thing that people care about. If you can control, it's like controlling the newspapers or the television networks. You control the media. You constantly control the message, and that's what Vince McMahon's been doing. Every time he's been coming out on television and introducing John Cena or welcoming us to the show, and people in the crowd had the nerve to cheer him or start bowing him or singing his theme song, Vince McMahon goes out there and says, see, they still love me. It doesn't matter what I've done. They still love me because I'm Vince McMahon. They still worship me. And he's sending a subtle message to these people investigating him. It doesn't matter what I've done. It doesn't matter what you think I've done. It doesn't matter that you're investigating me, because guess what? I can still walk out onto a show watched by millions of people on cable or network television, and I can do anything I want because I still own the company and I'm still in charge of what's going on when it comes to creative. And it's arrogance, and it's the arrogance like that that has led him to this position right now. It's this abuse of power that's led him to this position right now, and he has to go. He has to go. When is enough enough? WWE is a publicly traded company. They're a publicly traded company. They're getting investigated by like 6 or 7 different law firms because, rightfully so, their investors saying, wait a minute, I'm putting my hard-earned money into this company. I'm putting my hard-earned money investing into this company, and this guy's going around spending his money. It's not the company's money, but he's going around spending his money on former employees because he's been having affairs or he's been harassing them or sexual misconduct or doing whatever he's been doing. This is the guy that's meant to be making me more money. This is the guy that's meant to be making this company more successful, which in turn gives me my money back and more. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right at all. And that they have every right to be pissed off. Absolutely every right to be pissed off. And he has every right to be investigated. Now, what will actually happen? I don't know what will actually happen when it comes to Vince McMahon. I don't know if he's going to be eventually, thrown out of the company. I don't know if he's going to be voted out. I don't know if there's going to be a vote of no confidence. Who knows what is actually going to happen when it pertains to Vince McMahon. But ultimately, as I mentioned before, when is enough enough? Honest, when is enough enough when it comes to him? Now, Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp has provided more details on this article that's come out. Fightful was contacted by multiple WWE staff, including some who had remained quiet in the past about McMahon's handling of the situation. One had told Fightful that they'd wish they'd spoken out sooner. and said that McMahon's response would often go from, quote, no selling the whole thing to, quote, being defiant, which is how I view those appearances that he's done on television. They also said that after Vince McMahon's, quote, pointless June 17 appearance, which is, of course, the SmackDown appearance, he returned to Gorilla and shouted, quote, F them, seemingly in response to the allegations that caused his insistence to appear on television. Because guess what? That's what it was. It was a message. That's what I was just saying. It was obviously, clearly just a message. And it's ridiculous. And he's sitting caged out at UFC. The new Vince McMahon. Bear in mind, he hated UFC like 10 years ago. Now he's sitting caged out because, again, publicity. Got to get that PR going. Now, when the initial Wall Street Journal story emerged, the former talent contacted Fightful and said of, quote, at least one major story would come out in the coming weeks, but didn't feel comfortable identifying the story specifically. They confirmed to Fightful this morning it was tied to the former talent, who had gained a $7.5 million agreement. McMahon's behavior was heavily rumored among the writing team, based on those that Fightful had spoken to, though they didn't hear if elements of coercion and NDAs were well known, but it might have just been known that Vince McMahon was fraternizing with the female talent or female employees. One former writer that spoke to Fightful said that McMahon's relationship would be a half-joking excuse as to why he'd be late to meetings before television. Everyone at Fightful that Fightful spoke to continued to believe that John Laurinaitis was done in the company, but believes he has a, quote, golden parachute deal with WWE that will likely take care of him. Female talent, of course, had contacted Fightful last year upon his promotion back into talent relations, expressing their frustration. One higher-up told Fightful, quote, Johnny Ace's ninth life is about to be lost, and it continues from there. And again, it's just disgusting. Honestly, it really is. As I mentioned, I know people will say, well, in terms of legality, he hasn't done anything legally wrong. There is clearly a pattern of behavior here at WWE. There is clearly a cultural issue amongst the executives and higher-ups in WWE. There is clearly an issue and abuse of power by those in authority at WWE. They're a publicly traded company, and as I've mentioned before, if the board votes this guy out and Vince McMahon, he can go, and he should go. If he cares about his company enough, he would resign. I don't think Vince McMahon is ever going to resign unless the board of directors say, either you resign or we're voting you out. That's the only way that I can see it. But Vince McMahon, I wouldn't be shocked if he appears on TV tonight. I really would not be shocked because that's what he is. This is a guy who went up against the federal government. He doesn't care. He really doesn't. He doesn't care what fans think. He doesn't care what his board thinks. He doesn't care what anyone thinks. This is a man that's a very, very, very arrogant man. So Vince McMahon, as I mentioned, and I think unfortunately more allegations will come to light, and I also think that more details about these NDAs will come to light, and that's a shame for those affected about it as well, because there are other people involved in this. But it's shocking. It really is shocking news, and as I mentioned, I wouldn't be shocked if more comes to light in the near future. But anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.